Goodness gracious, I think I must have taken now like 10 takes for this video, but I'm not satisfied with any of them, so I'm just gonna jump into it. Today I want to talk about anxiety. Specifically, anxiety with putting yourself out there sort of vibe. Why does it freaking suck? In my professional collection observation, I think it sucks mainly for two reasons. There's anxiety over the unknown and anxiety over anticipation. You think you know what's gonna happen via experience. Maybe you've put yourself out there before and you got rejected and it sucked. This, luckily, I would like to count as exposure therapy. All right, you've been through it and you survived because you're here with me now watching this video. So you did get through it, and I can't really say the likelihood of it happening again, but even if it does happen again, guess what? You're still gonna be fine. Believe it or not, because I know that you think I'm just the coolest, most charming, calm, nonchalant, splendid, wonderful person you've ever experienced, but I am actually very full of anxiety, and I've always been full of anxiety. I've always been an anxious person. And maybe a few of you are thinking, that doesn't make any sense. You can't be an anxious person and post videos online. You can't be an anxious person and put yourself out there. Guess what? Yes, you can. I don't really have the time nor the expertise to explain the complexity of the human experience and how people are not one-dimensional, but in fact, very, multi-dimensional, well-rounded, complex beings, which have no easy explanation or slot to be slid into. But yeah, you can be anxious and be like me. In fact, I'd bet a lot of money that other people who post videos the way that I do online are also anxious people. I would bet on it! I would bet on it. I think that other people feel the way that I feel about a lot of things. So I think that sharing my thoughts and perspectives can be helpful. It might not even be new information, but sometimes hearing the answers to questions you already know, like you know the answer, it can still be very helpful. Maybe validating to hear it from somebody else. So hopefully this is what that'll be. Now, I'm a person that's been to therapy. That's not something I'm ashamed to admit. In fact, I'm pretty proud of that. Or maybe not proud, but I'm grateful for the experience. I think therapy is not something that everybody is blessed enough to be able to afford or go to or experience. I think finding a good therapist is extremely hard. But that tidbit about me having experienced therapy is important just so that you know, maybe where some of my views come from. But I'm not going to talk about CBT, I'm not going to talk about mindfulness, I'm not going to talk about meditation. I might talk a little bit about exposure therapy, because that's just like literally living life. But the other practices I'm not going to talk about. A lot of those are also just living life, but with a fancier name. And even with my experiences and opinions and whatever, I'm not perfect. These are just my thoughts on the topic, so you are more than free to disagree or add more thoughts on top of them. I think a lot of people are anxious about being rejected, which is fair. Even on, I feel like this is almost cliche to talk about, but like on an evolutionary level, it makes sense to not want to be rejected. Let's say we're going back in time and we're all little cavemen with our little cavemen cliques, and I'm a little caveman. And in order for me to survive, I really need a village around me. So if my village rejects me, I will literally die. Now, that's not gonna happen to you now. I don't know. You might literally die. But, just kidding. If someone rejects you, you won't literally die. Like, you won't. And luckily for us now, we are not 20 people in the world in Neanderthal times trying to survive together, the 20 of us. So we really need each other. Now there's billions of us. So because there's so many, guess what? That means there's also gonna be people that don't like you. They don't frick with you. And that's okay. Do you frick with everybody? Probably not. If you're saying, yes, Patty, I frick with everybody, you have not met enough people. So you might need a little exposure there, because I'm sure there's someone out there that you would not frick with. And that is okay. That can be something helpful to think about. The next time someone rejects you, it might sting a little, it might hurt. You might be like, oh, I'm freaking awesome though. Why would anybody reject me? And you are freaking awesome. You know, you're awesome. But you might not be this person's flavor of awesome sauce. And that's okay. If they're rejecting you, as much as you might want them to be your flavor of awesome sauce, they are not. No, Patty, they're perfect. They are my flavor. Yes, I love them. I want them. Please don't reject me. But if they're rejecting you, that is their way, and the universe or the greater power's way of saying, they're not for you, okay? Because if they were for you, they wouldn't reject you. And you cannot expect to please everybody all the time. You can't. If you're living your own life, there's probably gonna be times in which those closest to you don't agree with what you're doing. But guess what? Guess whose life it is? It's your life! So you have to make the decisions that you think are right for yourself. And ultimately, you might look back at those decisions and think, oh my gosh, that was the wrong decision. Not really, because you learned something. It made you the person you are. It formed you into this unique, special flower of an individual with these experiences, this culmination of life. Now, that being said, with people pleasing, especially if you're thinking about posting content online, social media, maybe you just want to put things out there, let's take that group who is, deciding on what they think about your decision making, this little group, and blow it up times 1 billion. So now we have the whole world. You're posting online, you're putting yourself out there. Of course, the algorithm might be smart and push it towards people that are similar or interested in whatever you're posting about, but that is not a guarantee. You could end up on the wrong side of the internet, which is just a side of people that maybe don't agree with you on things or have your same interests. I see this from time to time, somebody posting things that they love online, not hurting anybody, minding their business, doing their thing, having fun, and they end up on the wrong side and people are just not with them. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. Now, I'd be interested to see what those people have to say about those experiences, because I have been fortunate enough where every once in a while my stuff will end up on the wrong side, but it's pretty rare. And my tips for that is, I don't believe that the negative commenters or like the haters or whatever, I do not believe they are real people. And if it was real, the reality of that being like a real person is even worse. Because I personally, the life of an empath, I feel kind of bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, what kind of hater activity is this? Truly, the only people that go out of their way to be mean or like say mean things online are people that are deeply unhappy with themselves or their lives. Someone who is happy probably doesn't care that much. Like, they're not gonna go out of their way. Someone who's happy or regulated. You don't even have to be happy, but like a regulated, stable person. A stable person will not go out of their way to be intentionally and forcefully negative. So that's a tip that I have for anybody worried about a bunch of haters. They're not real. Something else that helps with anxiety, of course, is exposure. Exposing yourself to the uncomfortable situations. For example, this used to happen to me more. Sometimes it still happens. Like, just someone's gonna think this is stupid, but somebody will relate to this. Opening mail. And I don't mean like to my P.O. box, I mean like mail that comes to my house that's usually from the bank or the government or, something like that. I hate opening mail. I know that I have to. Sometimes I literally don't, and I just hope it's nothing super important. But that's something that does get better. Sometimes it's still really hard for me, but it does get better where I open the mail that's from the government and I'm so scared and it doesn't end up being anything bad. So the next time I get a letter like that, I can remember it wasn't that bad. So, feel better about opening again. And even if it was that bad, it's still important to open it because you'll probably get in more trouble if you don't open it. It'll probably be even worse. So, just you gotta do it. This used to be more common for me. Sometimes it still happens though. Anxiety, just like interacting with people on a very low level basis, like ordering food at a restaurant. I call that low level because this is a person doing their job. It's basically scripted. Of course, there's some things that you don't know what's gonna happen. Like they could be having a bad day. They could just be an interesting person. Something might be going on. So there's that. But the likelihood of it being super weird is so small because it's just a person doing their job. Doing that repeatedly helps lower the anxiety. Anyway, I feel like I've been rambling and saying a ton of nothing, which is kind of funny because I was just listening to a podcast the other day on Spotify, and it was 25 minutes long, and about 10 minutes in, I'm thinking, whoa, this person has not said anything in 10 minutes. Like not a single... There was a message, but like the message was 2 sentences long and that was the whole message. Nothing else was needed, but it went on for almost half an hour. Did I stay and listen to the whole thing? Absolutely I did, because at that point I really respected it and I really appreciated the grind as it relates to me, as, I'm yapping, and so that resonated with my soul. But yeah, hopefully this ends up like making sense. I don't know. You can let me know if you made it this far. Hopefully it was fine. If you have something else you'd like to contribute, please feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. If you have anxiety, how do you deal with your anxiety? Because it might be different than how I deal with mine or somebody else. So it might help someone else out in the comments. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Adios.